for his service to art and culture in his region. His number one love is, of course, his art, and it's as important to him, as he says, as oxygen is. Through his modern art and his unique interpretations of his art, he comments on social issues, and I'll leave him further to expand on that. I think he's a bit of a rebel. He has had art exhibitions in New York and Montreal in Canada, has been a curator at various galleries, including the Super Art Project, which involved at the one time 24 galleries and 64 artists. He's also famous for upstaging the New South Wales Art Gallery by doing his own exhibition with a group of artists called the Zoe. On the steps of the Art Gallery, where they had some other big promotion on, and they got all the media attention. That was a famous occasion. Yianni runs a weekly ABC radio program from the Central Coast called Smart Arts. Smart Arts. You better be careful how you say that. Not only is he busy with the arts, which he gained his Australia Day Award for, but he is also an aerospace engineer with Qantas. He's responsible for keeping the cracks out of those planes we hear about. And so he's responsible for keeping the planes safe in the air. He's an aerospace engineer. I'm amazed, as well as an artist. Not only that, his partner, lovely young lady Kristen, is also an aerospace engineer with Qantas. Keep it in the family, say. There. You better take them over and start running the show properly. Yianni tells me he's also on the faces of Qantas, on their engineering department, on in-flight videos that they're presenting up. And if you look out for next week in the Daily Telegraph, he's to be doing interviews next week in the Daily Telegraph. So without further ado, it's a privilege and honour to introduce to you our Australia Day Ambassador at Bendemeer for 2012, Yianni Johns.
Thank you, Bernie. Welcome everybody to Australia Day at Bendemeer. I'm very proud and privileged to be given the honour of being your Australia Day Ambassador. And as part of Australia Day this year, the Australia Day Council has asked us to reflect on a couple of things, and one is making your mark and making a better Australia. So my little speech of about 2 hours, I'm only kidding, is I'm going to touch on a bit of how we've made our mark as Australians, some inventions, and how we became Australia. So a few convicts were sent out here, and a little bit about myself, and then we can all get drinking. So, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and my fellow Australians, thank you for having me and my partner Kristen in your beautiful village. We love it. It's gorgeous here. She's starting to look at real estate signs already. It's a long drive to Sydney, baby. Firstly, I'd like to pay my respect to and acknowledge the Anawan and Camilleri people, who are the traditional owners of this land we meet on today. So I'm in bushranger territory, huh? That Thunderbolt guy was here, I believe. I did some Googling about you guys, and it's funny how things haven't changed with that other recent bushranger by the name of Nadam, who was on the loose around here. When we arrived in Tamworth, I saw police cars everywhere. I thought, oh goodness, I hope they're still not chasing this guy. But very, very frightening. Speaking of this area, McDonnell River, it's the 100th birthday of an introduced species. No, not the Aussie people, your trout. I bet you didn't know that. I didn't. So it's good to see them back in the rivers after such a long drought over the many years. It's interesting we're meeting in a hotel, and a very comfortable coincidence, because I'm the son of a publican. My dad had hotels all over Queensland, and part of my role as his son was tagging along when he'd have to go out and fix them up when the managers went rotten. So I love being in hotels, and I love being sober in one for a change. I'm only kidding. It's a strange coincidence. But my dad, he's a Greek Cypriot. He bought his own ticket, came out to Australia, and started, his first job here was a yardman in a pub. And so as his English improved, he moved up to waiter, and eventually went on to manage that hotel, and many years later had hotels of his own all over Queensland. So Australia is a pretty good land of opportunity, and if you want to give it a go, you can make your mark, and you can move places. Australia Day is a day where we stop for a minute and celebrate the amazing country we live in and the egalitarian people we are, and how we've made our mark on Australia. Australians are some of the most creative people on the planet. And because we're in a hotel, I'm going to have to talk about this invention. In 1856, how old is this place? 1864, wasn't it? Just a little bit before this place was built. Using the principle of vapour compression, Australian James Harrison invented the first practical refrigerator. And why do you think that was invented? It was commissioned by a brewery to cool beer. How Aussie is that? I love it. I love it. So we had the beer invented. We had the fridge invented. We had the beer. We needed something to do. So while we're having a coldie, so what do you think we invented next? The feature film. And that was in 1906, and that was a film about another notorious Aussie, Ned Kelly. An Australian, David Warren, from Melbourne in 1958, invented the black box flight recorder. Now that's a recording you don't want to end up on, but a very important invention. And in the same year, and I'm not advertising by the way, Qantas Airways inaugurated the first pioneering round-the-world airline service. So we've done a lot in this country. Think about this. Next time someone tells you to get lost, tell them you can't, because you've got Google Maps on your phone. And that was invented by two Australians, Australian-Danish brothers, Lars and Jans Rasmussen, and it was developed in Sydney. So you can't get lost. All right? Smart Aussies. Smart Aussies. Our inventiveness has made us world leaders. We Aussies take the difficult option of trying to improve ourselves. And as a result of that, we have more per capita achievements in sport than any other nation on the planet. So that's pretty dang good. In the arts, many Australians have taken the creative option and avoided the feelings of inferiority because we're so far away from London, Paris and Rome. So what we do is we refuse to conform. So we are, in other words, as a creative nation, we have embraced the idea of not better nor worse, just different. And different in a very good way, in an Australian way. Egalitarian Australians, well, these are the kind of people that have made it. Well, they tend to downplay their success, and this is most prevalent in our speech. I don't know if you ever noticed that. The Aussie version of English is quite unique in that there is no socio-economic variance in pronunciation as there is in Britain. Oh, my God, hello, I'm Prince Charles. You couldn't imagine going, g'day, I'm Princey. I'm sure you remember the late Kerry Packer. He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, but he spoke like an Aussie hard-working tradie, as well as Bob Hawke. My fellow Australians, wasn't he fabulous? Well, he also spoke like a tradie as well. That's the egalitarian nature of Australia. You know, we don't sort of rest on our success too much. If this situation was in England, it would be unthinkable to have, as I said, a media magnate or a prince talking the same as the lower class people. And now for a little bit of Australia Yianni. This is my version of some of our history with the help of Google. And I was just talking about England. In the early days, as you all know, they sent a fair share of alleged criminals to Australia. It was 60-40 split in favour of the convicts in the early days of our settlement. In fact, my great, I forget how many greats he was, but he's pretty great. One of my grandfathers was transported for a fashion crime. He stole a jacket, and so he was sent to Australia, and I'm perpetuating that crime by wearing these wonderfully outrageous shirts. So I'm still doing the fashion crime. Some of the crimes of early new Australians that they were transported for were quite bizarre. In those days in England, you would have been transported for being a suspicious-looking Irish Catholic.